Are you concerned that if you passed away today, that your family will be left in a financial bind? Are you concerned that your nest egg is quickly eroding in the stock market? Do you want life insurance but confused about how to get it and if you would qualify? That's where I come in. My name is Terry Edwards with Secure Financial Partners, and I've been helping families over the last 20 years ensure the things that matter most: your life, your health, and your wealth. Give me a call today, Terry Edwards, 336-416-8327. Again, that's 336-416-8327. Your legacy is worth the call.
Pardon me, B-Dot here, and as the voice of the Greensboro Swarm, PA for the Hornets, and the sixth man of Carolina basketball, I do it all. Just like Beamer Tire and Auto. Alignments, new tires, NC State inspections, oil changes, they do it all. And with 3 locations in High Point, Greensboro, and Kernersville, B-Dot and B-Tar, yes, we do it all. If you need details, visit BeamerTire.com.
Are you looking for the next best soul food spot to please your palate? What if I told you there's one right under your nose? Welcome to Taste of the Triad, located in the old Bell Brothers Cafeteria location at 4320 Old Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem. Authentic Southern comfort food in a family atmosphere. At Taste of the Triad, you can have Sunday dinner anytime. Baked chicken, fried chicken to order, the best meatloaf in the Triad, ribs, baked mac and cheese, and more. Check out Sunday Smackdown with beef and pork ribs, smoked turkey legs, collard greens, yams, and much more. Are y'all hungry yet? Did I even mention the live music on Sundays? Comfort soul food in the heart of the Triad. Taste of the Triad. 4320 Old Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem. Check out the menu at tasteofthetriad.com. So where exactly can you hear Tobacco Road Sports Radio?
North Carolina, Kernersville, Salisbury, you know what I'm saying? Burlington. I didn't bring you Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte.
For the best in live sports debate, live sporting events, and more, tune in to Tobacco Road Sports Radio. TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
The North Gate, baby. Archdale.
You are locked into Tobacco Road Sports Radio, your home for Triad Sports.
And you know this, man.
This is LaMelo Ball, and you're listening to Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM, your home for Hornets basketball in the Triad.
Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
And he's in the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
No matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
Happy Saturday to the Triad. It is The Rundown, the only live sports talk show in the Triad, the Greensboro High Point, Winston-Salem Market, 1470 AM WWBG. I am your host, Desmond Johnson, in the house. Full Panther takeover today. I know we got March Madness going on. I know Purdue lost. I know all kinds of stuff going on with college basketball. But we got too much stuff going on with Carolina Panthers that we got to get to. So I had to go pull some heavy hitters. Had them on about a month or so ago. 2 guys that are founders of 2 of the bigger organic Carolina Panther podcast platforms out there. I am definitely a stickler for, with everything going on around the Carolina Panthers today, don't worry about the national media because they don't really know exactly what's going on. These guys know what's going on. I know what's going on. We're here. We're reporting on the team every single day. Follow these brands if you want to know the latest from the Carolina Panthers in terms of free agency signings, who they might pick number 1 in the draft, coaching, things of that nature. Right now, we've got from the Carolina Cat Chronicles, King Cody Lackus in the house, and from the 4-Man Rush podcast brand, we've got Monty Fetti in the house. What's going on, gentlemen? How are y'all doing on this beautiful Saturday morning?
Oh, Desmond, I'm doing wonderful, man. I never miss an opportunity to talk about my Carolina Panthers. I feel like I've been live on C3 just about every day this week, man. So much excitement around the Carolina Panthers. I'm pumped to be here with you again, and I relish the opportunity to come and pack up my guy Monty. So I appreciate being here with y'all, man.
What's going on, Monty? How you doing this morning?
What's going on, fellas? Yeah, man, it's always an honor to come on here and talk Panther football with you guys, man. I appreciate you bringing us back on. Definitely, like you said, there's been a lot going on, so and I think we've all had a lot to talk about over the last week. So yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. And like Cody said, always putting him on the pack is always fun, fun.
So yeah, I think I saw something on Twitter that made me laugh out loud. Someone was like, between the two of you guys, the Panther fan base has their own Skip and Shannon, which is awesome. So I appreciate the banter. Love when I can get you guys on. They're here the whole hour. So you guys know the deal with the rundown. If you're watching this on YouTube, go to YouTube / Tobacco Road Sports Radio, or go to Facebook Watch to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio page. You can see the video live there, and you can actually participate in the show. We're a new age. It's 2023. Instead of doing just the call-ins, we do it all online. So if you want to participate, say something about anything really that we're going to be talking about here in just a bit, you could do so and participate in the show. Like some of the folks that are watching us right now are starting to do as they realize that we're on and we're live. Donald Duck, one of our Believe in Panther super fans, I said it, Desmond Baker to the Buccaneers, and you said don't trust Twitter. We did talk about Baker Mayfield maybe popping back up into the NFC South. He did sign with Tampa Bay early on this week. Today, though, what we're going to do, we got 3 different segments that we're going to take through. Segment 1, we're going to actually talk about this number 1 pick, and we're going to go between the 3 of us and decide what's the best thing to do with the number 1 pick. Who should be the number 1 pick? Should we even keep the number 1 pick? We'll go through all that. We'll hear from Cody and from Monty and from myself, our thoughts on that. We'll take a look at the Panthers free agency, see who all has signed so far up to date, and who do these guys think has been the most important free agency signing to this date. And then finally, a little fun. I thought with all the talk about the fan base being kind of divided in terms of DJ Moore being included in that deal with the Chicago Bears, it made me start to think about where do I place him in terms of wide receivers in Carolina Panthers history? Because a lot of people are acting like he's the next best thing since Steve Smith. A lot of people are saying that his production can be replaced. So I wanted to do a Mount Rushmore of Panthers wide receivers, and really it's really going to be 2 slots because we're going to put Smitty, we're going to put Moose up there already. So we're not even going to waste time debating about those 2. They're already up there. But there's 2 slots that are open, and I want the both of you guys to nominate a player, a former wide receiver for the Panthers that should be on the Mount Rushmore. Maybe it is DJ Moore. We'll find out, but that'll be later on in the hour. Let's get to the nitty gritty, guys. The Carolina Panthers, of course, trading off DJ Moore, a couple of firsts, a couple of seconds for the right to move up 8 spots in the draft to the number 1 pick in the draft, thereby now controlling the 2023 NFL draft. Cody, let's start with you. If you were Scott Fitterer and David Tepper, billionaire owner of the Carolina Panthers, you now have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Do you A, actually draft a guy? And if so, who is that guy that you would draft at number 1 as we stand today? B, trade the pick back down, pick up some picks and go about your way that way. Or, well, that's really it. Those are the 2 choices you can really do. You can pick somebody or you can trade it off. So what would you rather do in that situation?
So listen, by now a lot of people have seen the clip and heard the interview of Scott Fitterer at the Combine saying that if you're going to make the move to move all the way up to number 1, you better have some conviction on the player that you're moving up for. So I don't think that they intend to trade down. I think that's all smoke screens at this point. I believe they have a player in mind that they intend on grabbing with the number 1 pick. Now, I don't necessarily know who that is, but if I had my say, and again, this is tough because I really like both of these guys, I'm picking CJ Stroud, man. I really am. I think that he has everything that you want from a dynamic pocket passing quarterback. He has the arm. And listen, that Georgia game did wonders for his evaluation because you got to see a lot from him that you didn't really see throughout the season. He showed mobility from behind the pocket, extending plays, rolling outside, and throwing with incredible touch and timing. And he did that throughout the season. But, man, the mobility and using his legs to burn the best defense in college football, I mean, that really spoke a lot about his potential. And listen, I think Bryce Young is an incredible talent. And I love his film. I love his pre and post snap ability. But CJ Stroud, you have someone who's 6'3", 220 pounds, and he just doesn't have the hesitation that a lot of fans are going to have about drafting someone who's 5'10" and a half, maybe 195 pounds. I know he weighed in 200 at the combine, but I feel like his natural playing weight
It's like
is
bar weight or something.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It's probably around 195 pounds, and a lot of people think that he's going to be able to bulk up, and I'm sure he will. An NFL strength and conditioning program is going to do wonders for him, but I just don't know how much functional muscle and mass Bryce Young is going to be able to add on in a very short amount of time. So even though I really do like Bryce Young, I mean, I've been comparing him to Drew Brees more than Russell Wilson just because of his intelligence on and off the football field. But to me, CJ Stroud, he's just a safer pick, man. He goes through his progressions. He knows where the ball is supposed to go. And even at the combine, he's throwing passes with touch and accuracy and, with poise, like putting it right where the receiver barely even has to move to grab the football. So it's a very tough decision. I know Panther fans have been going back and forth, but yeah, I'm casting my vote for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth between the two at the top there, and I agree. I agree with you in terms of what Fitterer said. Fetti basically said, if you've got conviction for a guy, go get him.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Don't
Right.
care about any of that stuff. But if you've zeroed in on a guy and you feel like you can, really use that guy, go get that guy if he's your guy. I don't think that they would have gave up DJ Moore if the plan was ultimately to fall back if the opportunity presented itself. I think they would have just traded with that team in the first place without having to give up DJ Moore and probably getting CJ Stroud anyway. So to me, this is more of a situation where they don't know for sure who's going to be the number one pick yet. They're still doing their due diligence, in my opinion. But I don't think they're going to give this number one pick up. They moved up to be the number one pick in the draft and to control the draft going forward. Monty, your thoughts on this? If you were Fetti and David Tepper, would you hold on to this pick and actually pick a guy? And who would that be, in your opinion? Or would you actually entertain the thought of trading down with a team and staying in the first and still maybe possibly getting your guy, but recouping some picks?
Yeah, I think I think there is some interest there to want to trade back. I think Cody hit it on the head earlier, or when you spoke earlier on it, that I think it's just smoke screens at this point. I think we all agree you don't make that trade and lose your best weapon on offense to take the second best guy on the board. And I do feel like going to number one, they're going to get their number one guy. Talking about that interview with Fetti, I agree. You got to have conviction to go get your guy. And in the same interview, I think him and Frank Reich spoke very well and very highly of, Bryce Young. And I float, it depends. It's just based on the day when you ask me who I think, is the better quarterback. I really do think both quarterbacks have a strong argument for number one. Bryce Young has been my quarterback one the entire year. It'd be kind of crazy to switch now. I do hear all the talk and the concern of the size. I believe that is the real concern there. I believe outside of that, he checks every box. And I've thought this, for months now. I thought he checks every box when it comes to quarterback play this year. I believe he's athletic enough to to play in almost any system this year. I think he's the best off schedule and off platform from every quarterback this year. I think he has an adequate and big enough arm to play in the league. I think that when it comes to just for me, quarterback, playing quarterback, you have to have a clutch factor. People call it dog, but I look at it as you have to have a clutch factor. I believe he has the biggest clutch factor in this class, and it's funny. He's the smallest guy here, and I believe he has the biggest impact on a week-to-week basis out of all the quarterbacks here as well. So, Bryce probably will be my guy. I don't believe they're seriously considering trading back any. I believe even if you do, I think the furthest you trade back is the two with Houston, recoup some picks, and then you're still going to get one of the two guys. So I think we're in a great position. I think Fit did a good job. Fit and Samir did a great job this year and obviously in free agency. But yeah, Bryce probably would be my guy, but I don't think I would be upset with either quarterback.
It's funny because I've always thought Bryce Young, I have to confess, I didn't watch a lot of college football this past year till towards the end. So I didn't really see a whole lot of Bryce Young or CJ Stroud till towards the very end of the season. And I'm just now starting to go through tape on both of them. In the beginning, when I was telling folks that I did not want the Panthers to trade up in this draft because I didn't think there was a generational talent to trade up for. I've
Same.
realized a lot of that was with the idea that Steve Wilkes was going to be the head coach. And I think mentally in my mind, I'm thinking Steve Wilkes being a defensive coach, he's not going to put the things around a young quarterback that could properly develop a young quarterback. So the quarterbacks in this draft, I can't see us moving up for one. Now, if one fell to us at 9, I would have been fine if Wilkes was the head coach. When they hired Frank Wright and then they built this coaching staff with the amount of experience, rings, knowledge, years playing in the NFL, I mean, like it got to a point when once they filled out the staff, I'm like, oh, okay, now I do feel comfortable moving up for one of these two quarterbacks, but both kind of jump out with flaws to me. Like, you know, both of them come from schools where they're not really known for, you know, pushing quarterbacks into the NFL. Let's just put that out there. With Stroud, he's got the size, but he had some games where he was not really the main catalyst for the Ohio State offense, I guess is the best way to put it. He saved his best for last on the biggest stage, which is how you're supposed to do it. And that's the lasting memory of CJ Stroud, him versus Georgia. Bryce Young, though, is really intriguing to me because, yes, I was scared off by size, but I have to always remember it's not 1985. You know what I mean? Like, they can't just go back there and kill him. Like, literally, you can only hit a quarterback from here to here anyway at this point.
Yeah.
So, and the offensive line Carolina has, I'm going to go out on the limb. It's top 5 in the NFL going into next year with everybody signed. Everyone's there for the next 2 years. We'll get to the free agency signings in the next segment, but he would have a good offensive line, good run game, good coaching staff around him. And he doesn't do the Kyler Murray where Kyler Murray's similar size, but Kyler Murray actually scrambles to the edges to throw a lot. Like he gets in trouble, he scrambles around and then throws it. Bryce is in the middle. Like, Bryce is in the pocket. He rarely has to do that, and he's thrown in the middle of the field. Like, he has been one of the best quotes I heard from Bryce Young when talking about his size. He said he's been playing at that size his whole career. Like, whatever level he's played at, Pop Warner, you know, high school, college, whatever, he's always been the little quarterback or whatever, but he's always been the best player on the field. So you got to kind of take that in consideration. I hear people saying he's the next version of Pat Mahomes, like a mini Pat Mahomes or whatever. That's very enticing to have something like that potentially there. There's a huge hit or miss factor, though, with Bryce because of the size. With CJ, it feels like you're kind of not getting that it factor, but potentially a 10-year starter, like a Jared Goff type of quarterback. You know what I mean? Like someone that's going to be steady, can get you to a Super Bowl, but maybe not necessarily win you a Super Bowl like himself. Bryce kind of feels like, to me, he could be that guy, but because of his size, we don't know for sure. And it's just a matter of, do we want to place our bets on someone that's 5'10", 190 pounds at quarterback? And that's really the decision. What would Houston have to give up for you to move off the number 1 pick?
So I said this on Twitter, and I got flamed for it because everybody's like, "Oh, that doesn't work out. That's too much. The trade charts, say that that's not reasonable compensation." I don't care, man. If the Houston Texans, like, let's be real, the Panthers are looking at either CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. I don't really buy that they're looking at Richardson and Levis, especially up there where they're picking at number 1, right? So you have to come away with either of those two. So the only trade partner is Houston, right? Well, I mean, essentially, who's ever picking number 1 is going to have a large part in shaping the destiny of the other team. So whoever's picking number 1, okay, if they get Bryce and then CJ goes to number 2, like one of the comparisons I've been making recently, there was a draft that had Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, and they both went number 1 and number 2. And during that draft, both of those two quarterbacks were very highly touted. There was some debate if Ryan Leaf should go number 1, kind of similar to this draft. Like, we don't really know who the true number 1 prospect is. Well, one of those guys went on to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and one is one of the most legendary busts in the history of NFL quarterbacks. So if you're going to make that kind of decision for us, and we're just going to pick whatever quarterbacks you didn't choose, I'm sorry, but in my mind, that's at least a first-round pick. Either they're number 12 this year or one of their ones that they have next year. Keep in mind, the Houston Texans have an abundance of draft picks because of that Deshaun Watson trade. Like, I believe they have 2 first-round picks the next two years. So it's not like it's right. So it's not it's not like they don't have the draft capital to be able to meet that demand, because they do. So if we trade down, I want to get a first round pick out of it, at least one of them, because it's such an important decision. I think that it costs that much.
I would agree with that, but my only hang up on that is the only way I could see that happening is if Houston just falls in love with a player. Like, again, we just spoke about the fact there's not a generational player in this draft. There is no John Elway, there's no Peyton Manning, there's no Cam Newton. And even in the Cam Newton draft, I remember discussions of who to take, Cam Newton or Blake Bortles. You know what I mean? Like that was going on. Like, it sounds crazy now thinking back on it, but that conversation was a legit combo. Like, which one should Carolina take? The last time we had a number one pick, I think we picked the right guy. So because of that, Houston would have to just fall completely head over heels in love with one of these two guys, and then have the conviction to want to go ask Carolina for it. And then, of course, I think Fitter would be like, "Yeah, give us that 12 pick that you got right there, and we'll slide down to 2, and then we'll take CJ and then get him a wide receiver at 12 and be done with it." But that's a perfect scenario, I think. The only problem with that would be if we fall in love with the same guy. Like, if we fall in love with the same quarterback, because we're all going to be at the same pro days as Houston and everybody else, and we still got Stroud's pro day, Richardson's pro day, Young's pro day. Young didn't even throw at the combine, so I don't think you trade up for a guy after the combine that you didn't see throw. So I think Stroud's the leader in the clubhouse. Richardson's interesting, though. I haven't heard either one of you guys speak about him. Where do you think, this might be outside the Panthers type question, where do you think Richardson falls when all this is said and done? Because he went from being kind of talked about to, after the combine, being the star of the combine, and now he might be a top 5 pick, before this is all said and done. What are your thoughts on Richardson? Because I hear either high or low when it comes to him. His potential seems to be the highest in the whole draft, though.
Yeah, I think anywhere from Seattle, I think there could be real interest there. Seattle has 2 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken, this year as well. So, so they could, he could fall somewhere from Seattle. I believe Vegas is a real option. Atlanta is always a real option. I think me personally, I don't believe Ritter is their, is their future at quarterback, and I don't believe they have their future at quarterback right now. So, I mean, I think Richardson is an interesting prospect. I think that he may potentially have the highest ceiling. I don't think you go to number 1 and take the highest ceiling player when he realistically could be a year out from playing. And that's kind of where I think I'm at with Richardson. I believe he is a very interesting prospect. And, I wouldn't be upset if we stayed at 9 and he failed. But, going to number 1, I think we all agree that you don't go to number 1, lose your best weapon, and then not get your guy. Now, for trading back, I don't think – and it's such a hard question because, I do agree with Cody. If I'm going to trade back after going up to number 1, I got to get, like, the compensation has to be there. I can't – it won't justify me moving back and not getting the number 1 guy on the board just for a second round pick, in my opinion. So I do agree with Cody. Yeah. Realistically, Houston – the question all boils down to, like you said, is, if they fall in love with the guy, then it makes sense for them to go to number 1. But if we don't believe there's a significant gap between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, if you're Houston, why send a pick? You're going to get one of those guys either way. At number 2, whether it be CJ or Bryce, you're going to get one of I believe the ceiling talk for CJ is a little. I think he has a lot higher ceiling than people give him credit for. So, either way, I think you're going to get a very good quarterback. And in my opinion, even if you got a quarterback for the next 10 years, that is, if you got a Jared Goff for the next 10 years, that's not a bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah, Jared Goff is trash, and I'm like, he's not trash. He's not Peyton Manning, but he's not trash.
Right. So, so I think getting the Jared Goff for the next 10 years, especially knowing that he went to a Super Bowl with his first 4 in the rookie campaign, dude, sign me up. So I think either way, you're going to get a good quarterback. So if I'm Houston, it really just, I think you all said it just depends on if they love a guy. I don't think that there's going to be a significant gap between the two to where it justifies Houston sending us first. And, that's where, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I'm up against commercial break, but before we take that break, I wanted to squeeze this in real quick. Does Lamar Jackson affect where any of these quarterbacks land, or is he going to end up back in Baltimore? Because I catch the feeling that he's not very happy with Baltimore right now, and Baltimore is oblivious of this. So I think think it was Dove Kleiman, but I never saw it actually drop, that he's getting attached to Tennessee. I don't know how real the offer may be. I thought I saw 255 guaranteed fully 5 years. It'd put him at like $51 million a year, which still wouldn't be the highest paid quarterback in the league. That still would be Aaron Rodgers if that all went down. But do you think Lamar ends up affecting the top 10 in terms of these 3 or 4 quarterbacks we're talking about, or you think he's a whole separate thing?
So I'm going to say no. And the reason why I'll say no is because a lot of the quarterback needy teams that are picking in the top 10, you're looking at, you have 4 chances to get a quarterback between, Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson. And would you rather have a quarterback on a rookie contract, or would you rather pay Lamar Jackson, a ton of guaranteed dollars and give up future draft capital to be able to go and get him?
At least 2 first.
At least 2 first. I kind of think he's going to be back with the Baltimore Ravens this year, but I know he's been frustrated for a long time. So sadly enough, I could also see a scenario where he decides to sit out and just demands to be paid. And I don't know what the Ravens are going to do, especially if they don't get another decent offer for him.
Monty, real quick, Lamar, does he affect this top 10 draft, or is he a separate thing altogether?
I'm going. I hate to side with Cody, all day, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't believe. I just don't think there's going to be a team out there that's going to be willing to, to make that fully guaranteed contract deal. I just don't see that happening. I think it would have already happened by now. Especially with when you're talking about a 26-year-old former MVP. I think that teams understand how good he is. I just don't think they're going to pay for that. I believe he will be back in Baltimore. I don't think it's in Lamar's nature to sit. I believe he would play. I do think he wants out of Baltimore. Does he affect the top 10? I just can't see it. I don't see a team that's going to go out there and pay that price tag for him.
As long as they don't end up in the NFC South, I don't care where he goes. Just don't be in Atlanta, or don't pop up in Tampa all of a sudden. Or the Saints just signed Derek Carr, so they're cool. But Tampa's still floating out there as one. They seem like a spot that was swooping at the last minute. And Atlanta's interesting because I don't know what Atlanta's doing, and they've actually got the picks and stuff to move. And Lamar would be a pretty good fit in Atlanta on top of that. So I don't know. We'll put a pin in that. I got to take a quick break, but when we come back, Panthers free agency, it is wild in here. The Panthers front office has been the most active I can probably ever remember in terms of being precise in what they're doing. I want to know who's the biggest free agent signing that we've had to date. Got King Cody and Monty Fetti in here from C3 Chronicles and the 4-Man Rush. Panther Takeover here on the Rundown, WWBG 1470 AM. Be back in just a bit.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Walkertown Auto Sales. Look no further when shopping for your next vehicle. Located in the heart of the Triad at 3076 Walkertown View Drive in Walkertown, Walkertown Auto Sales specializes in affordable and reliable used cars, trucks, and SUVs. They offer financing with good credit, bad credit, or no credit, with interest rates as low as 3.9%. With knowledgeable employees that are always willing to go the extra mile, you'll drive away with the car of your dreams at Walkertown Auto Sales. Check out the entire online inventory now at WalkertownAutoSales.com. Blue Naples Pizzeria in Kernersville is now hiring. Come work for one of the best Italian restaurants in the Triad. Currently hiring dishwashers, cooks, front cashiers, and more. Great hours, great pay. Give them a call at 336-993-7707 or stop by and inquire at 1519 Union Cross Road in Kernersville. Start working this week. Blue Naples Pizza.
Looking to tailgate this summer? Stop by One Stop on the Way. One Stop number 6, located just 1 mile west of East Forsyth at 2748 West Mountain Street in Kernersville. One Stop serves fresh fried chicken and our famous taters 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Feeding a crowd? Get 16 pieces of chicken and sides for just $27.99. Craving wings? Come try our new spicy breaded wings. Get a 5-wing meal with 6 taters and a roll for just $7.39. Now in regular hot ranch or spicy. One Stop number 6, 2748 West Mountain Street in Kernersville.
Hey, Panther fans. Right now on the SiriusXM app, hear the most in-depth Carolina Panthers coverage anywhere with Believe in Carolina Panthers, part of the Believe podcast network on SiriusXM. Hear from me, Desmond Johnson, and my co-host, Skylar Callahan from Sports Illustrated, and Panther great Jonathan Stewart as we break down the Panthers before and after every game through the NFL season. Your team,
your podcast. Search BLEAV in Carolina Panthers on the SiriusXM app, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you believe?
Maylor Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, located at 205 North Cherry Street in Kernersville, is your family chiropractor. Dr. Maylor's goal is to treat and correct the underlying cause of patient symptoms, to alleviate pain, and to restore balance. Maylor Chiropractic treats pain, sports injuries, injuries from auto accidents, and much more. Start performing to the best of your ability, pain-free. Give them a call and set your appointment today at 336-996-3737. Maylor Chiropractic in Kernersville.
Hey, y'all, Tiny's Mobile Auto. Is your car broke down? Are you stuck somewhere? Do you need a mechanic? Oh, you don't want to call a tow truck? Call Tiny's Mobile Auto. He'll come out to you, do your work, whatever you need done, your regular maintenance, or if you broke down on the side of the road, give him a call. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call 336-423-6241. You don't even have to see me. Just let me know what's wrong with your car, and I will come and fix it, y'all. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm on the Twitters, whatever you guys need, 336-423-6241. As always, I'll be seeing you.
This is Terry Rozier, and you're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM.
Back to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
I know normally I use that bed for a wrestling segment, but I'm trying to get more hype here, and the Bloodline theme song gets me hype. Welcome to The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. King Cody, Monty Fetti in the house, Panther Faithful in the house. We got a loaded show right now. If you missed it, you can go back and check this out on youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Rate, subscribe, hit that like button. Anytime a brand new episode of The Rundown or any of our other studio shows, Franchise Players, Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, or the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast with myself, Sports Illustrated beat writer Skylar Callahan for the Panthers, and Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart. Whenever a new episode is going to come up, it'll give you a notification, so you got enough time to find a seat and sit down and chop it up with us and the Panthers. So definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. Guys, I wanted to get into Panthers Free Agency because that's been the main thing here that's been going on over the past week and a half or so. It officially opened up on Wednesday, but of course that gray area, the legal tampering period that we were joking about on Believe in Panthers earlier this week, allowed them to start putting people in place before it was official. I want to go around. I'm going to start off with you this round, Monty. Who do you feel out of all the free agency signings the Panthers have signed to date, who is the most important free agent signing that they've had and why?
Are we talking about this year or just in general?
This year, this period they've had the past week or so. Who did you see and you're like, oh, that's a good one. That's a big one.
I think Hayden Hurst has the potential to be. I think he's a very underrated tight end. Before we start putting expectations on, the next few guys that we sign, or even I feel like the next era of guys, I feel like we have to be mindful of those expectations. I think Hayden Hurst does have the potential to be a very good tight end, especially in a weaker NFC division and especially a weaker NFC South division. I think if we get a quarterback, I think that's the perfect addition for a quarterback. Is a big tight end, and I feel like he has the potential to be that guy. Him and Von Bell would probably be my two choices. I think Von Bell also brings that experience on the back end that you're looking for in your secondary. I think he has a lot of tire or left tread on the tires. I'm sorry. So I think he has a lot left in the tank. I think those would be my two choices. But I think Hayden Hurst really has the potential to be a very good tight end for us this year.
Cody, what are your initial thoughts on who's the best free agent signing that the Panthers have had to date so far?
I'm tempted to say Bradley Bozeman, just because keeping that center and keeping that offensive line intact, that's going to be so incredibly important for a rookie quarterback that's getting ready to come into the Panthers. But, if we're just talking about guys that we've just recently brought in, dude, I really like Miles Sanders. I look at what he did last year, almost 1,300 rushing yards, something like 11 touchdowns. The dude was crazy, man. He went off. He has a ton of ability catching passes. The guy can literally do it all. And if you think last year we broke some single game rushing records for the Carolina Panthers behind this very same offensive line. To me, he's a versatile weapon who is very similar to Christian McCaffrey, but $10 million cheaper than Christian McCaffrey would have been. So, dude, that's why I love it. And this is also why I've been beefing with mainstream media on Twitter. Like I posted, ESPN gave the Miles Sanders contract a C-. And it's like, man, this is why you really have to support Panther content creators like Believe in Carolina Panthers, like Carolina Cat Chronicles, like Four-Man Rush, because we're better equipped to tell you what this actually means for the team. It was a great deal. They can get out of that contract relatively cheap and in like a couple years if they really had to. But I think Miles Sanders is a great addition to this offense, and I'm really excited what he'll be able to do. To me, the most interesting signing is Von Bell. And the reason why I say that is because I wonder what it means for Jeremy Chin, because they ostensibly play the same position. They're a box safety. They're going to roll up. They're going to smack you in the mouth. They're going to defend the run well. And, so now you have two very similar players in that regard. So I wonder how Ejiro Evero is going to choose to use those two guys. And I'm very excited to see how that plays out.
How did you guys feel about Deonta Foreman not staying, ended up signing a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Bears? The first thing I saw from Panthers fans was, what? We couldn't give the dude $3 million? My sources were telling me that the Panthers actually did offer him more money, and he chose to go to another team after they signed Sanders to that 4-year deal, which tells me he just didn't feel like being a third running back, because I believe Deuce has said he likes a 3-back system. And that situation would have been Foreman, Sanders, Hubbard, I would imagine, and Blackshear's still around too. So there was a lot of running backs in the running back room. So I kind of understand why Foreman left. Although knowing Deonta, he probably regrets, or not regrets, he probably is going to miss that offensive line that was blocking for him. For me, I am going to say Bradley Bozeman was the most important free agent signing they've had to date, because that offensive line is one of the things I think that lured Frank Wright here. I think him seeing that offense morph into what it did under Steve Wilkes, primarily because of the offensive line. And now you've got all those guys locked in, from Taylor Moton, Ike Ekwonu, you got your Bozeman at center, Austin Corbett, Brady Christensen. I mean, you've got a line now where me and Skylar were saying last year when they drafted Ike, me and Skylar were saying early, this could be a top 10 offensive line. I think they were a top 10 offensive line by the end of the year. I'm going to go further and say this is a top 5 offensive line, if not maybe the best offensive line in football after free agency, because it's going to break up the Eagles offensive line and the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. There's guys going all over the place. Carolina's keeping theirs intact, and you're coming in with an actual offensive plan to use them. So Bozeman's important. I'm staying on the offensive and defensive lines, though. I think Shy Tuttle's a really important piece too, because for them to play this 3-4, and we really glossed over the importance of having Dom Capers back in the building. For those that are maybe too young to remember, I'm 45, so I've been with the Panthers the entire 27 years or whatever it might be. When Dom was here, the 3-4 defense he built, it was primarily kind of like veterans up the middle, and then you had your high-paid guys on the outside. So like you had Lamar Lathan, you had Kevin Green on the outside, you had Sam Mills in the middle of that. You had vets in the backfield, in the middle, like Mike Minter, and those guys like in the middle of all that stuff. And in the middle of all of it, you got to have a nose tackle that can kind of dictate and take on 2 guys every single play, pretty much. Shy can do it. He's a hometown guy. Well, not a hometown guy. He grew up in Midway, went to North Davidson, about 60 miles north of Charlotte. So he's a Carolina guy. He played for the Saints. Pretty affordable. 3 years, $19.5 million, $13 million guaranteed. It allows them to put Tuttle at nose tackle, and allows them to put Deshaun Williams and Derek Brown on the ends of that 3-4. Now you can put Brian Burns and whoever you got on that right side, maybe it's Frankie Louvu, you have them as stand-up pretty much outside linebackers with Jeremy Chin and Shaq in the middle. That's a pretty formidable front 7 to have. And then what you got in the backfield with J.C. Horn, you've got the safety they just signed, Von Bell, Xavier Woods, Deonta Jackson. That's a pretty good defense, especially with Dom Capers and Evero looking over this. They're kind of building it the same way Capers did when we first got here, where he's bringing in vets to plug in spots and they're keeping their young guys where they need to be, you've got a young guy potential all-star every single layer of the defense from all three facets of it. So I think it starts on the line for those two. Is there a wide receiver out there still left that we should target? Because we've really kind of gone through, this was kind of a light free agent class, really, when I was looking through it. We've gone through like the meat and potatoes, the main people, and now we're kind of like in that second wave or whatnot, and they have not signed a wide receiver. Do they need to follow a wide receiver in this, or do you think they're going to go wide receiver heavy in the draft? Monty, I'll let you go first on this too. Is there a wide receiver out there still that you wouldn't mind kicking the tires on?
Yeah, I think you got to get a veteran wide receiver. You have to at least add one. I think TMJ is going to be considered one of those veteran guys now, to be coming in year 3. But I think you have to add a guy. Did Chark sign with somebody yet?
He visited with Carolina yesterday, but I haven't seen anything about him signing, no.
Yeah, I didn't think I really think that I'm a Chark fan. I think we should go get DJ Chark. I think that would be a guy. McCole Hardman would definitely be another guy I think that we should target in free agency. I think you have to add a veteran guy to that core. But I do believe now, they've positioned themselves in the draft where they can go heavy, wide receiver heavy after getting your quarterback in the first. So I believe that we're also in a good position there to where there are some guys that maybe in either the second or third round, I believe in day 2 that you can find. I've been very vocal on Twitter about being a Tank Dell fan. I think Tank Dell would definitely be a great addition, to this offense here. I think he's a perfect slot receiver, and I think he has a potential to be an outside receiver. But yeah, I believe that you have to add a veteran via free agency first, and then you definitely got to give CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever the choice is at quarterback, as many weapons as you possibly can get. I believe that's kind of looks like the blueprint for rookie quarterbacks now. You draft your guy and just load him up with talent on offense. So I believe that's what we're planning on doing over the next 2 years. I definitely think that you have to add a guy for free agency though.
It might have been from your Twitter feed, Monty. I think it was Steve Smith talking about Tank Dell. Where did Tank Dell play?
He played for Houston, and dude, he's a dog, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like the same argument that we have for Bryce is the same argument you have for Tank Dell. He's just undersized for his, I guess for the position. But when you look at the tape, when you look at it, how explosive he is off the line, this change of direction, how twitchy he is, his hands, I believe he checks all the boxes for me as a receiver as well. He's just not 6'2", 215, so I believe that to get him in day 2 somewhere in the second or third round, dude, I believe that's a great weapon to add to. And I feel like Steve Smith would also be ecstatic, we add him to the Panthers.
Yeah, we get Smitty back. I mean, if you got Steve Smith giving a stamp of approval to you, then you got something going on, because Smitty don't just be handing out compliments. That's not his thing. But if you deserve it, and he goes out on a limb to be like, hey, this dude is this dude. Because I watched this little video on him, and I'm like, okay, all right, I take him in the third if he's sitting there or whatever, and then trust Frank Wright and company to kind of put him in position to succeed. Cody, is there a wide receiver out there you're kind of looking at that's still floating around in free agency that you'd like to have him come in? Because we're kind of scraping the barrel of free agency at this point. Pretty much all the good folks have been signed, right?
Absolutely, there's a player that I would love to get. His name is DeAndre Hopkins, man.
Oh,
and it baffles me. Look, people who know me know that I'm a Clemson Tiger. I'm a diehard Clemson fan. So, yeah, I'm a little bit biased. That's my first Clemson receiver that I ever fell in love with. But, man, you're going to have either of CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, 2 incredibly gifted throwers of the football. Why not go out and give him a premier weapon in the NFL? Even after missing 6 games last year, DeAndre still had over 700 yards receiving. Like, the guy is an incredible talent. I don't know why we haven't done it yet, man. Like, there's a lot, there's a few good receivers in this year's draft. My draft crush is Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers can be an outside receiver. I love his top end speed, his route running, his separation. He can honestly do it all. But I just think that if you're going to have a young quarterback, to go out and get him a proven, seasoned veteran like DeAndre Hopkins, that would be such an incredible gift to the development of a young quarterback. And let's be real, none of the receivers in this draft are guaranteed to be even half of what DeAndre Hopkins is. So, yeah, am I biased? Yes, but I'm going to get my man Nuke, and I'm starting a great creation here in Carolina.
Monty fell off of the broadcast when you said DeAndre Hopkins. He probably got a phone call. He'll be back in just a second. I just found this though while we're waiting for Monty to come back in. This just got posted about 45 minutes ago on SI.com on their All Cardinals Fan Nation page from Donnie Druin. The Cardinals have actually revealed what they would be asking for if they did trade DeAndre Hopkins. So I thought this would be interesting here. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated said that Hopkins would have to go for a similar package the Houston Texans dealt him to Arizona too. It says the ask is similar to what the Texans got for DeAndre Hopkins, a second rounder plus something else of value. At this point, trading for him would be more complicated than it was then. He'll be 31 in June. He's got a lot of miles on his legs to the point where he doesn't practice much and he has to be managed through the weeks. And while that existed with him for a while, only recently it's cost him time on the field. After missing 2 games over his first 8 seasons, he's missed 17 over the last 2. 6 of those were due to a PED suspension, and he's due $19.45 million in cash. Having said all that, though, if you look at his stats from last year, he was on pace for 121 catch, 1,300 yards, 6 touchdown season. So, yeah, so I mean, there's both here. There's both sides of that in terms of if that's possible. He's 31. That's the only thing that really scares me off with him is his age, because it feels like Carolina's been building with a certain age group in mind, which is why I didn't mind them going up to go get a rookie quarterback as opposed to getting like a vet or something to that nature. Because we've done that the past 2 or 3 years, right? So getting a vet of that nature in Hopkins is almost similar to me of bringing in a Lamar Jackson or a high-priced quarterback, because you're still going to affect the cap with that one guy, where it feels like everything else you've done is to avoid putting all that money on one guy right now, unless it's one of your own, like a Brian Burns is going to be up for an extension soon and that kind of thing. So while I do understand the logic, Cody, in terms of going after DeAndre Hopkins, his age and his injuries scare me off. I feel like we wouldn't be able to fully maximize his potential going forward at 31. I feel like I'd rather go draft 2 wide receivers and try to develop them as opposed to getting D-Hop. Because, I mean, we just saw Pat Mahomes win the Super Bowl with 3rd and 4th string wide receivers, basically, because all of his receivers were hurt by the time he got to the
right, but it's also Patrick Mahomes, probably the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah, we got to put a little disclaimer there. It was Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly. And my entire point is, like, imagine the opportunities that you're going to have for Terrace Marshall Jr. and Laviska Shenault and Shi Smith, because DeAndre Hopkins is going to command the attention of the defense. And him being a little bit older, he can bring that veteran presence that I feel like would be honestly very, very refreshing to our wide receiver core right now. We have so many young guys on this team. I think he would be, that veteran presence that could really kind of take us to the next level. And he was on the Pat McAfee show recently and said that he would be flexible in the final years of his contract, restructuring or whatever that might look like. So, I mean, I get it that he's older, but I still think he has some gas left in the tank.
I didn't get a chance to get Cody's opinion on this before he had dropped off and came back on. Real quick before we flip over, I'm going to skip through the last commercial break so we got time to do the Mount Rushmore for Panther wide receivers. Monty, your thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins? Or do you have a thought on bringing DeAndre Hopkins?
I dropped out. I lost service earlier. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to leave you. I would go leave you out of it. But what do you think? D-Hop to Carolina?
D-Hop would be a perfect receiver as well. I of course, Cody as being the Clemson homer there, I wouldn't expect anything less from him. But no, very seriously, I think he would be a great weapon. I do think he's getting a little older. He gives me a little pause with him not playing a full season over the last 2 years. So, that kind of gives me a little pause there. But yeah, I think a perfect weapon or a perfect pairing with TMJ, perfect weapon for a rookie receiver. Definitely go get him. I think I don't want to overpay for him, but if he's available, definitely go get him.
Well, like I said, you might not have heard that part. I just saw from the the All Cardinals Fan Nation site for Sports Illustrated, Donnie Druin had just wrote up an article about 45 minutes ago describing the Arizona pretty much has said what they would take for him. It'd be a 2nd round pick and then something else of value. So that sounds like a 2nd and either a mid-round pick or a player of some sort to get Hopkins. And I don't know if I'd want to give up that 39th pick. I'd actually like to pull that 39th pick and trade it for another second and something else, like a third or whatever,
instead
of a 31-year-old wide receiver. I don't know if I'd want to do that. There's probably gonna be a wide receiver sitting there at 39 that we'd probably rather have, So let's do this real quick. I want to switch over before we run out of time because we're here till the top of the hour, folks. March Madness is still going on. I think everybody's an FDU fan this morning waking up. That was a fun game to watch last night. We'll be back in March Madness coverage next week as we get into the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. And by then, who knows who's going to be left after the carnage that happened over the past 2 days. I wanted to do a Panthers Mount Rushmore for wide receivers. We do that a lot here on the rundown. We'll take position groups and kind of build a Mount Rushmore out of them from the entire history of the Panthers. And it's based off of the conversation around DJ Moore, because I've heard a lot of folks kind of complain that we had to throw DJ Moore in there, that trade to move up to 1. But on the other hand, I'm looking at his stats and just kind of looking at everything and who he was getting thrown to over the past 4 years. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we could probably duplicate that production somewhere down the road. And if we can get something for him now in his prime before that contract extension kicks in, it's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put Steve Smith and Moose Muhammad on the Mount Rushmore so we can save ourselves time, because I think they're the de facto 1 and 2 wide receivers in the history of the Carolina Panthers. Would we agree on that, the three of us?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's for debate for that. Yeah.
Cody, you kind of look like
easy. No, easy. No, if anybody didn't have Steve and Moose as a number 1 and number 2, like, are you even really a Panther fan? Like, come on, that's the easiest thing ever.
I just want to clear that out there so that we're all in agreement. It's Smitty, then it's Moose, and now we've got 2 spots, and luckily I got 2 guests. So each of you get one. This is how we're gonna play this. You're gonna nominate a guy, and then I'm gonna be kind of like the judge and decide if he gets put on Mount Rushmore.
Okay,
Monty, I want to start with you. Who would you nominate for the Panthers Mount Rushmore wide receivers? And folks, you guys can chime in if you're listening or watching on YouTube or on Facebook Watch. You can chime in now while we're on here until noon.
Oh, I'm going to take a playbook. A play out of my boy Cody's playbook here. It's easy. It's no question. I'm taking my guy DJ Moore as the nominee. Seriously, I don't think there's I don't think that we have a very huge list of receivers for Carolina for the history of the Panthers either way.
That was the curveball.
I think that's fair to say, but no, I think DJ Moore definitely has to be number 3 in my opinion. I do think that when you look at the quarterbacks that he's had over the 5 years, when you look at his production, I feel like there is up there with any receiver outside of the 2 that we've already listed. To be honest, I'm sitting there thinking of who could be a strong candidate to rival him for number 3, and I don't think any receiver. We're looking at Kelvin Benjamin and Ricky Prohl. And
I'm scrolling through the motley crew of wide receivers from the dawn of the franchise to now, and I'm like, there had to be I'm down to like Patrick Jeffers and like you gotta dig.
You're talking about Mount Rushmore for especially when receivers for the Panthers, that I think is just more testament to how non-good of the receiver rooms we had and how good the other ones are. But no, I think DJ Moore would be number 3.
I'm gonna allow that because looking through this, it's probably more 3. The tougher one is actually number 4. And Cody, your nomination is now. Who would you nominate to be the 4th wide receiver on the Panthers Rushmore of wide receivers?
All right, man. Some people might flame me for this, but you know me, I always bring my honest opinion. I think you have to put Ted Ginn up there, man. I really do. Because listen, that 2015 season, which, all of us have so many fond memories of, it is not the same without Ted Ginn Jr. taking the top off of those defenses for Cam Newton to throw those bombs, man. Ted Ginn Jr., he's the type of player, especially Kelvin Benjamin went down that training camp, and Panther fans panicked. They were like, oh, man, we lost our number 1. What are we going to do? Who's Cam going to throw to? And yeah, he had the case of the dropsies sometimes. That's a part of his film.
It kind of
more than sometimes.
Like brick hands, I believe was his nickname that we had for him. He had hands made out of bricks.
Right. But a lot of those a lot of those games in 2014 and 2015, man. Ted Ginn Jr., he was the difference maker on that offense. I mean, obviously Cam Newton, number one, first and foremost. But when we needed a third down, when we needed to really stretch the defense and flip the field, that's what Ted Ginn did. So, I mean, people might not love that pick, but I'm telling you, man, some of the best moments in Panthers history involve Ted Ginn Jr. So, yeah, man, I'm saying Ted again.
I'm going to throw a couple names out there, and you guys just give me instant reaction to them, because some of these guys I forgot about. And I'm rolling through a list, and I'm noticing a lot of these wide receivers are with us for 3-year stretches for some reason. I don't know why it's 3 years, but they're just here for like 3 years, and they move on to wherever else they're going to be. Guys like Rocket Ismail, who I loved in college. I loved with the Raiders. He was in the first 96 to 98. He was really the first number one we had as a Carolina Panther franchise. Mark Carrier was on that team also, and played 3 years and was one of our guys. He actually helped who was it? I can't remember the quarterback name now. Steve Berline. I think he still has the record for most passing yards for a Panther quarterback in a season at over 4,000 yards. And it was with those in 99, I believe. It was with some of these guys. Just scrolling through Devin Funchess, Jericho Cotchery. Jericho caught that ball. Jericho caught that ball.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Samuel. Keyshawn Johnson played here for a year. You know what? I'm going to nominate Ricky Prohl.
That's a good pick.
I think that's fair.
If things had gone a certain way, if a ball hadn't got kicked out of bounds, he may be looked at differently in Panther lore, because he caught that tying touchdown in the Super Bowl with seconds left or a minute or two left or whatever. I might go Ricky Prohl. Dwayne Jarrett is an interesting suggestion there. He seems like the one that had the most potential and didn't pan out, I guess. Because he came off that USC monster of a college football team, and he was the best wide receiver on that team.
Brenton Burson, come on,
Brenton Burson.
Hey fellas, I'm going to take the room and just pull the Band-Aid off, man. Kelvin Benjamin.
No.
Get
off here, bro.
I know guys are going to roast.
Drop out, Monty. Drop out.
but just production. Hey, man, if we're just over a 3-year span production, hey, man, I'm going to say it. Kelvin Benjamin, brother.
He did have a couple 1,000-yard seasons, didn't he?
He had 1,000 yards his rookie season. He had when he came back off injury, he had 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. So I mean,
he couldn't stop eating though.
I still blame him. I blame him for Cam Newton's injury. Most people attribute it to T.J. Watt, and yeah, that finished it. But I also remember Kelvin Benjamin refusing to go for a touchdown ball. It gets intercepted against the Chargers, goes all the way back to the end zone, takes it for a pick six. Cam Newton chases it all the way down and lands right on that right shoulder. That was the start of the injury that basically finished Cam Newton's career. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive Kelvin Benjamin for that, bro.
Cody got beef with Kelvin Benjamin.
Monty about to have to drop out, bro. I'm not hearing it, dude.
Cody, like if I see Kelvin Benjamin in Walmart, there's gonna be furniture moving. Like I don't want any parts of this dude. Like,
bro, I can't do it with Kelvin, man.
Hey, he had a better rookie season than Julio.
Julio did, yeah.
Oh,
Julio
man, stop.
Hey,
drop out, Monty.
When you look
drop out, Monty.
That's what Bat Daddy 52 man. I think he's right. That was the only 1,000-yard season for Kelvin, but as Josh puts it, lazy receiver. Like, he just too many of them Popeyes biscuits, man. He just got out of control.
And
he could have been something too.
He threw his friends under the bus, man. Like the way he handled that Cam Newton situation, like I remember that it was a preseason game and we went to Buffalo, and he was throwing shade at Cam Newton beforehand, and the only reason Kelvin Benjamin was ever anything at all was because of Cam Newton. So,
I'm triggered.
I'm triggered straight up.
So we got Steve Smith, Moose Muhammad, DJ Moore. And that fourth one's kind of which actually says a whole lot towards our wide receiver history in Carolina, more than anything else, that we're struggling to find a fourth one, and we've been around for 27 years. So that says a whole lot. It'd be a little different for running backs. Maybe next time I have you guys on, maybe we'll do running back Mount Rushmore, because that one would be a little bit more interesting. So we've had a few guys with shortened careers, but when they were here, they had splashes. Let me go around real quick. You guys can tell the audience where they can get to your stuff. Starting off with you, Cody, where they can find the C3 Chronicles and where they can find you online.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can basically find me almost every day, it seems like, at the C3 Carolina Cat Chronicles podcast, that C3 Panthers podcast on YouTube. Every Tuesday night at 9 p.m., we do our flagship show that we've been doing forever. And then every Friday at 7 p.m., I do a show called the Friday Free For All. And anyone's down to join that, man. You can join via StreamYard, just how we do right now. You can find me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. I'm also the Panthers analyst at drafttech.com, where I write first and second round comments for the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. So check me out. That's drafttech.com. I appreciate being on here with you, man.
Monty, let the folks know where they can find you and the Four-Man Rush online.
Yeah, I'm always on Twitter. Like you said, you can find me on Twitter every day. At 4MR_Monty. Definitely, you could also find us on Twitter as well at the Four-Man Rush as well on Twitter. We're also on YouTube. You can catch us every week. Me, Kev, and JD cover Panther news and Panther coverage every week as well on YouTube. So yeah, it's always been a pleasure, Des. Like I said, I do appreciate you always having us on. Cody, it's always been a pleasure, my guy. You even with my sparring partner, I love talking football with you guys.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the both of you. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to have you on more often because these episodes clearly are favorites for Panther fans. More Panther fans are finding this channel due to the Believe in Panther podcast. So the one thing I wanted to do was spread the love. These fan bases for different little podcasts and things out there with the Panthers that they have may not be aware of some of these other ones that are out here. So whenever I get a chance to do something like this and have some of the top podcast platforms for the Panthers together on one setting, it's a beautiful thing. Everyone rate, subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio for the latest coverage in Carolina Panthers. Convos with beat writers, with radio personalities, podcast hosts. If you really need to know what's going on with the Carolina Panthers, we are the spot to be. Believe in Carolina Panthers, a brand new episode with myself, Skylar Callahan, and Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart should drop sometime early next week, probably around Tuesday. So if you're subscribed, you'll get a notification for when that'll be, probably sometime around lunchtime. We're out of here. Go enjoy March Madness. We'll see you next Saturday live. Peace.